You can understand the mind on a theoretical level, definitions, concepts, philosophy, but using your mind in real life is something completely different and much harder than it seems. The main reason is simple. The mind is not something that separates from you. You think inside it. You experience life through it. It's like trying to separate a wave from the sea. A wave may believe it is independent, that is strong or weak, but in reality it is shaped by the sea, the wind and the currents. And your thoughts work the same way. They don't appear in isolation. They are shaped by your past, your environment, and your experiences. And most people never question that. And this is where the real problem starts. Most people are not even aware of how conditioned their minds are. You probably met people like that. A boss who's always right, a partner who never questions themselves, a person who believes they know the only way. They don't see reality here. So question becomes, how do you even work with your own mind? You have to start breaking things down. This thought, is it really mine? Or did I learn it from somewhere? From my parents, from school, from society, or from people around me? And when you start doing this, you slowly, piece by piece, realize how much of what you think is not really yours. For many years, I was actually proud of how my mind worked. I analyzed everything: personal situations, business decisions, financial questions, even people around me. My mind worked almost like a program, constantly processing, constantly searching for patterns and solutions. And I believed that this was my strength, until one moment when a friend told me something that I didn't like to hear. He said, "You might have a problem called paralyzed by analysis." At first, I rejected that idea completely. But later, when I looked at it more honestly, I realized there was a lot of truth in it. Because this constant thinking was not only helping me, it was also creating stress, internal tension, and a kind of mental exhaustion. That was something I did not even notice before. At the same time, this way of thinking had clear advantages. I could understand situations very quickly and often see solutions almost immediately. That is why I was a good lawyer, negotiator, mediator, and also a good coach. Not because I knew everything, but because my mind was trained to analyze and connect things fast. But real problem appeared somewhere else. The solutions were good from my perspective, logical, structured, and clear. But for other people, they often didn't work the same way. Many times I heard, "This is a great idea," but realization didn't follow, especially when someone else had to execute it. And that is where I started to understand that thinking and reality are not the same thing, and that even a very good idea can fail if it is not aligned with how people actually function. I remember a very clear example from my time as a lawyer. A colleague of mine came to me with a legal problem. He explained the situation, the arguments from both sides, and what the client wanted. And very quickly I saw the gaps and proposed a solution. He was enthusiastic. It made perfect sense to him for what I said. But then came the next step. He had to present the idea to the client, and sometimes also to the judge or the opposing side. And that is where things started to change. The idea was no longer mine. It was interrupted, translated, adjusted, and similar. And at every step, it became a little weaker. And at the end, what started as a very clear and strong solution often turned into something much less effective. And that showed me something important. A good idea in my mind may not be a good idea in your mind. It doesn't automatically work like that. And this brings us to a deeper question. Where do your thoughts actually come from? Because if you observe carefully, many of them are not originally yours. They come from your past, from your family, from school, society, and from the people around you. Over time, these influences become so familiar that you don't question them anymore. You experience them as your own thinking, as your own identity. But in reality, a large part of what you think is simply learned, repeated, and reinforced over time. Have you ever heard of a word's tabula rasa? It is blank or unwritten sheet of paper. When we were born, we were like that. No thoughts, no ideas, no patterns or problems. Just our clear mind. Imagine your mind as the beginning, like a blank sheet of paper. Nothing written, nothing on. Or like a new computer with no data inside. When you are born, there is almost nothing there, just basic potential. And then slowly and slowly information starts to be added. Your name, your family, your environment, your first experiences. Step by step, your personality begins to form, your identity, your core values, and your beliefs. And that influences the way you see yourself and the world. The important part is this. You are not choosing most of this consciously. It is being written into you over time. And what starts as something external slowly becomes something of yours or even a part of you. Therefore, your beliefs become who you are. A large part of this information is stored in our subconscious mind. You don't see it, you don't think about it, but it's there and it influences how you react. Sometimes even stronger than your rational thinking. A person can know that something is safe, but still react with fear or tension. For example, someone who lived in a war environment can react to a simple loud sound as if danger is present again. The rational mind understands there is no threat, but the body reacts automatically. And this shows something very important. Your reactions are not always controlled by logic or reason. They are often controlled by deeper patterns that were built over time. The problem is not that you think too little. The problem is you trust your thoughts too much. Because every thought feels real. It feels logical. It feels like the truth. Because it is part of you, as we said. But most of the time, it's just a pattern repeating itself. And if you don't question it, you will build your life around it. So if you want to understand your life, you first have to understand your mind. And not just on a theoretical level, but in the way it actually works inside you. So instead of trying to change everything at once, start with something much simpler. Start observing your thoughts. Just notice them. Which ones repeat? which ones feel limiting, which ones don't actually feel like yours. Don't try to fix them immediately. Don't fight them. Just create a little distance. Because the moment you can observe your thoughts, you are no longer completely controlled by them. And that is always the first step.